Oh, yeah.
And now, our feature presentation.
Remember, that flag is still flying over America. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Honor and respect the man. Yes, sir. Because he still have his flag. There's much that can be interchanged between them and us in that way of respect. Yes, sir. We don't have to get up to try to make fun of them just because you have learned yourself. And now you have learned them.
Yes, sir. That's right, dear Apostle.
Just remember
Yes, sir.
that they show you respect after you have learned yourself.
Yes, sir, dear Apostle.
Show them respect too. Yes, sir. Because when you didn't know yourself, you didn't respect self, nor anyone else. That's right.
The black man of America begins the 60s with increased cries of integration by demonstrations, marches, more sit-ins, and yet facing more suffering by attacks of dogs, fire hoses, beatings, and death in his cry for justice. As the success of Mr. Muhammad and his followers increased, white America stepped up its attack against him and his followers. Newspapers and magazine articles began to appear, describing the divine teachings of Mr. Muhammad as hate teachings. In Chicago, a court ruled that we must sell to the city a 5-acre tract of land that Mr. Muhammad had the Muslims to purchase to build a hospital at 85th and South Park, now known as King Drive. Instead, the city built a playground for black people to continue sporting and playing. In 1962, Illinois State Senator Gottschalk attempted to get the University of Islam School in Chicago closed, describing the religion of Islam as hate teachings. April 27, 1962, the savage and brutal Los Angeles Police Department, numbering nearly 100, came into our temple number 27 without warning, shooting and killing our secretary, Ronald T.X. Stokes. Another brother was paralyzed, having to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. 7 innocent people were shot. Mayor Yorty traveled to the White House to bring about a federal attack upon the Muslims. Police break into the Monroe, Louisiana temple upon unarmed Muslims, attempting to kill them and then falsely charge them with an attack upon the police. President Kennedy is killed in November of 1963. The first announcement falsely accused the Muslims of his death. Malcolm Shabazz, whom Mr. Muhammad taught, rejects Mr. Muhammad's advice not to endanger Muslims' lives by speaking on the death of the president. All other ministers of Muhammad's temples in more than 30 cities obeyed Messenger Muhammad's wise instructions. But Malcolm, proud and humiliated by suspension from speaking, breaks away from Islam to form his own nationalist group. World boxing champion Muhammad Ali, then known as Cassius Clay, announces to the world that he has returned to his religion of Islam. America, fearing the acceptance of other blacks to their own religion, decided to use Muhammad Ali as an example by stripping him of his championship in order to frighten blacks into thinking something may happen to them. Malcolm is killed by gunshots in his own group meeting. The temple in Harlem, New York is firebombed by enemies. But Mr. Muhammad is determined that Islam will hold fast in New York and orders that the firebombed temple building be purchased and completely renovated into a modern new school and temple of Islam. National television announced that killers are coming to Chicago to seek the life of the messenger. But Islam removed all fear from Elijah Muhammad. He recalled the Psalm of David and relied on Almighty God Allah. The wrath of Allah began to show. America was stooped into war in Vietnam. American schools and cities are engulfed in riots and burnings. America's white youth rebelled in revolt of their own white school systems. America's economy begins to disrupt. America's dollar begins to decline. American people begin to lose faith and disrespect in their own government and political leaders. America reverts back to the savage clothing style of the caveman days. Mr. Muhammad smiles, for he knows that in the Holy Quran it is written that they plan a plan and Allah plans a plan. But know that Allah is the best of planners. America attempts to divide the black people of America against Elijah Muhammad and his Muslim followers. But instead, Allah causes the Vietnam War to divide them, as again some of our black brothers and sisters shed their black blood for the glory of America.
Allah was indeed blessing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with success in all the efforts he was making. Messenger Muhammad continued to speak out. On July 15, 1962, the Airy Crown Theater at McCormick Place was the place where Messenger Muhammad made known his entire program of what the Muslims want. It was indeed a highlight speech. Other memorable speeches include speeches made at Washington, D.C. in June of 1960.
But they can't represent God as you and me do. They will be given away the power to rule. They was not to rule under the teachings of reality of God. They was made to hide the reality of God. In order that they themselves will be worshipped.
Yes, sir.
I don't get angry with them the way that they rule and what they teach. How in the world can they teach and turn us away from the God of reality? If they intend to rule, they got to take us away from that. Because we got the reality. Right. Every time you look at a black man, you're looking at God. Right.
Atlanta, Georgia, September 1960.
We are happy. Yes, sir. To be honored by them. We are glad that they are visiting us. Yes, sir. To know that the sun is the spiritual sun is vice versa itself, rising from the west. Yes, sir.
New York City, New York, August 1961.
And recognize your brother that was lost. Yes, sir. And is now found. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Get up. Give him a place at home. Right. Come on in, brother. Yes, sir. Look at that. Praise be to Allah.
Detroit, Michigan, June 1962. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Flint, Michigan in October of 1963. New York City again in June of 1964. Los Angeles, August 64. Detroit, Michigan, August 1965. The Nation of Islam purchases several homes for the Muslim followers in Chicago. The homes are in well-kept neighborhoods with cut lawns. Inside, there are modern kitchens, recreation rooms, and air conditioning.
Mr. Muhammad continues to give more insight on his teachings and reaches more and more people by publishing 2 books entitled Message to the Black Man in America and How to Eat to Live, Volume 1.
The University of Islam continues to develop superior students. By turning out students who can read and write at grade level or above, Muhammad's universities of Islam are setting standards for education that are higher than those set by the accreditation boards of the public schools.
Reverend Martin Luther King meets with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in February of 1966, and Reverend King agrees with Mr. Muhammad and the principles he is teaching of justice for the black man and the true meaning of the Bible. He was shot down by an assassin's bullet just before he could make public his acceptance of the messenger's teachings. After years of selling the literature of other black people in the form of magazines, newspapers, and books to be rejected by them, Mr. Muhammad decides to begin printing and publishing the Muhammad Speaks newspaper in 1961. The newspaper which immediately becomes one of the largest selling black journals and one of the largest selling newspapers, white or black, in America. The readership now exceeds 1,200,000 papers. The paper was first published in the basement of the school and later in the office building at 79th and Champlain Avenue.